Please welcome back Anila Ali and Carole Schwartz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nina's coming.
Folks, we're going to hand out also pencils and paper. If you have questions that you want to share, please hand them in and we'll select some lucky ones. Thank you very much.
We know this was difficult to watch. It was difficult to bear witness. And it was difficult for Carole Sandburg to actually make this documentary. But as you can tell, she understood the importance of what she was doing and the information that she was sharing and sharing around the world, not just here in America, but everywhere. Anila, you took a group to Israel after October 7th, and some of those people are here with us tonight. And you stand up united against the sexual violence, against the misogyny, because it impacts one person, it impacts all of us. Can you share what led you to be such a strong advocate in this space?
I'll just take you back to my life and my own journey. I've lived in many Muslim countries. And of course, I was born in Pakistan, but I was born in a very different Muslim country where my father used to hold my hand and take me to the churches where we would talk about Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. My grandmother would tell me stories of Prophet Moses and David, and I would always be told that these are people of the book. That is the Pakistan 40 plus years ago. And I don't know what happened, but things changed drastically. I lived in UK. My first defenders was a Jewish girl, and somebody was calling me a Paki, and there were kids who were beating me up. Why? Because I had a different accent. I was the other in England. In many places I've found in my life that people of the opposite religion or the other religion would always stand up for me. It was sometimes, in England, it was my Iranian friend. And she said, I'm not a Muslim. Look what happened to us. And yet she stood up for me when I was being targeted. The same thing happened. I came to America. And the first thing my father told me, a visionary who had built Pakistan, and he had led the movement for Pakistan as a youth leader, with my grandmother, she was the matriarch of the family, and he had come to America, and the first thing he said, you want to make America your home? Learn to live like an American. Make friends with the Jewish people. They know how to navigate America. Educate your kids. And I said, yes, I'm going to do that. Ahle Kitab. And my kids' first friends were the Jewish people. I moved to a city where there were majority Jewish people so that my kids could have the same value as people of Abraham. What happened, I don't know, but we can change it. We need to raise our voices. We need to stand together and tell the truth. Now, 20 years ago in Irvine, there was a Muslim civil rights organization that went against the Jewish people. And they had told me, no, sister, you don't know what the Jewish people are like. They are going to use you. They're going to abuse you. They'll take pictures and they will just say, oh, we're good with the Muslims. And I thought, I went back to my own family's teachings. And I said, no, that can't be, because they're people of Abraham. And I pray and I know. And I stood up against them. And that was the beginning of their harassment of Muslim women who dare to speak, Muslim women who are saying, no, we have equal rights in Islam and we need a seat at the table. And that is when our movement began. And we said, 9/11, if you all know San Bernardino happened, it was according to the Muslim civil rights organizations in California, it was the Jewish people who did 9/11, then they did San Bernardino. Everything that was happening was being blamed on the Jewish people. And that's when we actually took a stand as Muslim women. I have one of my board members here. And we stood up against these radical extremists. And we found out that this wasn't Muslims like us. We were being silenced. It was Muslims who had been brainwashed to follow the ideology of Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, and organizations like that. Now, you can imagine that I lived in Saudi Arabia, where I was often beaten. My ankles were hit by these Wahhabis, imams, who would come and say, no, why are you wearing a lipstick? They'd beat up my husband because I wore a lipstick. Why do you have nail polish? They'd beat me on my knuckles. In front of the Kaaba, this man stood there and he was beating my head. We know what violence is. We are Muslim women. We know what these countries are doing. We come to America for refuge, to be free, but we're not free to speak. Yet, if we speak and we say we want a seat at the table, they try to take away. So what happened on October 7th, it was a continuation of that misogyny against women committed by these men who are evil. And what completely, just told me, Anila, you got to get up and do something, is the fact that they used God's holy name, Allahu Akbar. And the more I see this and I go back and I pray and I have to say Allahu Akbar so many times, it's hard for me to take these images away. They said the same thing when 9/11 happened, and they took away so many innocent people. And one of them was one of my relatives working for the Department of Justice. He died, and he died at the hands of these terrorists. And now this, it made me think my religion has been corrupted, warped by these terrorists. And so when I reached out to my board members, I have one sitting here and I have some colleagues that I'm with, I said, we've got to tell the truth, that these people are going to make life difficult for us. And yes, I know the Jewish people have been hurt, but it's my grandchild, my children that are going to suffer the consequences of what they are doing, promoting Hamas, the ideology of it, this evil ideology, and we've got to go and tell the truth. And even if that means I'm the only one who's going to go, I'm going to go. And I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only one, I have a dear friend who's a journalist, one of Pakistan's premier journalists, who's sitting here with me, Wajid, and he took a risk. And he said, I'm going to go. We're going to bear witness. Zeba's here. And I have many other board members who are speaking at campuses and colleges and doing webinars on Holocaust education. There are many silently sitting. And when we went there and we heard the stories, most of the stories, Carole, we heard from, Iraqi Israelis. They were talking to us in Arabic. And they were saying, sister, are you not going to speak for us? Like, we are not. One woman, she's married to a Jewish guy. She's Muslim, she's Egyptian, and she said, please speak for us. I'm Muslim, my children are Muslim. This is what they did. And to come back with that, it's a burden, because you have to do what you promised them. To come back and tell our community that no, it's not, Israel is not all white Jewish people. It is Muslims, it's Jews, and they've all been hurt by this terrorist organization. So we are here because we believe that we have to bear witness, and then this is our calling. This is what we're going to do.
Thank you. Anila and her organization have not just partnered with us tonight, but also in our latest letter to the United Nations, calling for the international community to hold Hamas accountable. And when I look at what we as Hadassah have been doing, since the beginning, it's been, people say you weren't doing anything. No, we were doing, but we were doing it in the halls of Congress. We were doing it in the halls of the United Nations. And after I led a global solidarity mission from 8 different countries from Hadassah, is when I said, we need to do this louder, and we need to bring friends with us, and we need to not only bear witness of what we saw and take it back to all of our countries and all of our communities, but we need to be louder than we've been ever before. So we had our End the Silence campaign, which is still going on, March 8th, International Women's Day. Around the world, we held almost 1,000 events. And if you ask, did I expect that to occur in LA? Yes. Did I expect it to occur in New York? Yes. Did I expect it to occur on the plaza in front of the Eiffel Tower? No. But you should have seen all the people there with shirts on that said End the Silence. They painted shoes red to represent the women, and they wrote End the Silence on them across the entire plaza there, because they wanted their community to know that they were standing up and they were speaking out. We had over 150,000 signatures to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Again, global campaign of getting people to sign on, demanding that they take action, demanding that they hold Hamas accountable. You cannot use rape as a weapon of war. You cannot attack us this way, because when you attack one of us, you attack all of us. Thank you. And that's what more organizations are realizing, is that we have to stand together, we have to work together, and the governments are noticing it. In the halls of Congress, in the United Nations, as I said, they're noticing it and they're responding. And we are going to keep on and keep on until they actually do something. But I want you to share a little bit about October 7th. You led the mission, Women and Men. You went down to the kibbutzim where the violence occurred. It's not just what made you do it, because you've shared that, but the ramifications that you have felt since coming back, since speaking out, from your own community and from other communities, if you'll share.
Well, you can imagine what happened to us when we came back. A lot of the board members and, people that were following us, women, as they started, it was Ramadan at that time, as they started going to the mosque, and, the leaders at the mosque told them, you've got to leave that organization. You have to denounce Anila and her women, and only then will you come. And these women in their own communities were being harassed, bullied. They would call for support, but I cannot be in many places. We tried to give them as much support, but there's a culture of bullying, intimidation, discrimination, misogyny, suppression of women. And then, of course, I spoke up when it was Irvine 11, and I said, no, this is not how Muslims should be. Muslims need to have allies. Jews are the best allies. We live in Irvine, and these organizations did that. They have millions and millions of dollars that they raise and they get. And they also, and I've worked a lot with countering violent extremism during, the President Obama's administration. And we know we have had problems with the mosque where, there were imams hiding. The bodyguard of Osama bin Laden is being sheltered in a mosque. And who talks about it? Muslim women. There's talk of killing Jews and Christians in December, and who dare speak? Muslim women and Muslim men. There were people who called and said, please, can you say this is problematic? Every time we speak up and men dare to rise, these people, they harass us, they intimidate us. They have a whole structure, like Cheryl talks about, systematic. There's a systematic silencing going on. And we want to show them that you can be a Muslim American, men, women, and you can oppose Hamas, and you will still be standing. And that's the message they're getting today, because after we did this, we realized, yes, there was a moment where we were being harassed, and of course my family, they had to leave Pakistan. My kids were harassed. Everybody who was with me, basically, they were ostracized. And also violently, there was a Cal State San Bernardino professor, a Palestinian woman, who followed me, and Irvine, they followed me to Azerbaijan. And they threatened to kill me in Azerbaijan, that, okay, we'll catch her when she comes to California. So is California a jihadi battlefield? That is what has happened to our community, and there's nobody to rise. And even if there's our voice, we want it to be louder than everybody's, and it is happening. I can't tell you that there are so many people that are thinking about this and saying, you know what, I have daughters. I have a granddaughter, and I don't want her to grow up in an America where the agenda of the Muslims is Hamas and the dehumanization of Jews and Israel. We've got to change that. We've got to challenge it. Otherwise, what are we doing as human beings? What are we doing as Muslims? I feel this is my duty as a Muslim to do this. But yes, it is our citizen duty. We have to do this as human beings, because this country is going to be devoured by hate if we do not challenge these people. The encampments that you see, you go talk to them and you say, you know what? Yes, let's talk about Gaza. Do you know Gaza was ruled by Hamas? They chose Hamas. And yes, you know what? I've talked to them. I've talked to the candidates who lost to Hamas. And I asked them, because I never wanted my community to say, hey, you haven't been to Gaza. You're not speaking for the Palestinians. I am. And I want my brothers and sisters in Palestine to wake up and say, these are evil people. We will never have peace until we have terrorists. I said the same thing when we were having, the war on terror in Pakistan, and the Pakistani government and people that I worked with. I said, yes, I don't like that people are dying, but there is personal responsibility. In Islam, there is a sense of responsibility. You must speak up. And terrorism, no. You have to save lives. And people don't want to speak up. They think that Israel, is oppressing and deserves this. Nobody deserves this. No woman ever deserves what happened to these women. And today, we are here as Muslims because we believe that that is fundamentally against every Islamic value. And we all put our lives at risk because we said, you know what, our religion is totally hijacked. When you talk about UN is supposed to protect women. SDG 5.2.1, eliminate violence against women. Mm-hmm. What are they doing? And why are my tax dollars and your tax dollars going to them, where they get the hefty salaries, and they say nothing about the women in Iran, the Uyghur women, who just had a conference and we spoke, and they said, please talk about us. We are Muslims too. The Yazidi women, the Kurd women, yes, those are Muslims too. And the Iranian women. There's a very brave professor on the Hill the other day. He's a Pakistani professor, and he's with the UN. He's the special rapporteur on human rights abuse in Iran. His study is coming out on the 16th, and we must all make sure that everyone reads it. And what is he talking about? He's talking about girls, innocent people, 800 people executed in Iran just last year. And no one cares? But because there's a Jew and there's Israel, let's delegitimize that country. That country cannot exist. That is the unfortunate agenda of the majority of people working at the UN. And if we don't unite together and we say this, you need to condemn Sima Bahus, you need to condemn the violence that Hamas committed, because in the end, yes, I am here for you, but I'm also here for my little granddaughter and and all our daughters, the Muslim community is going to have the most to lose, because it is our women. We're always in the front lines. Whenever our Muslim majority nations, they become oppressive, dictatorial, authoritative, it is the women and the minorities that suffer. And if we don't speak now, it's chaos. That's what you see here.
Absolutely. I want to give, I'm not sure who I'm giving the opportunity to ask the questions. Okay. We can share some of them.
The first question that we have from the audience is, how can you build a bridge when you feel dehumanized?
There's a few different ways, and I know there's at least one psychologist in the room, and she would probably stand up and give you lots and lots of information. We look at it and say, we have to work together. We have to support each other. We have to empower each other. And like Anila said, when you start to put down a woman, you're putting down one woman? No, they're just starting at the tip. They're going to put down one woman, then they're going to put down more women. Like Anila said, this is not only occurring in Israel, it is occurring in other countries as well. But now we're together, and our voices are stronger. And when some women feel like, well, I'm outnumbered, you're not outnumbered. There's more women in this world than there are men. We just have to empower them to stand with us. We'll be your voices, but stand with us.
I'll be right there. Oh, there it is. Sorry, everyone. Have you had the opportunity, either of you, to speak at many universities across the country?
Well, you know that we, as AMWAC, first of all, we want to tell you that we are your allies and you are our allies, and we're going to build more allies. But obviously, we want to go to these universities and colleges, and we have. We went to Harvard. We went to MIT. My colleague has the Muslim Women Speakers Bureau. She's running that. We were 10 Muslim women before October 7th. Today, we have 21. And it's growing. Muslim women are speaking out. Muslims are coming forward. I want to introduce my brother, Imam from Brooklyn, who is here to support that. You know, we all have to come together to condemn this violence. It's a violation of Islamic rights, Islamic values, and we want to speak to mainstream America. We want to go to the encampments. We want to reach out, and if you want to make that connection, please make it. I have a Columbia professor, Amy, here, and we said, yes, we want to be there as well. We want to talk to them. I'll tell you, this guy just called me, and he knew me through my work, and he came from Columbia. He's a Muslim, and he said, my wife is studying there, Anila, what can we do to help you? And he founded this group, like-minded people, and we are all in it together. The movement is growing. We have to show these people that we are stronger than them, that we will not be silenced. In fact, we're going to get better, and we'll get the Muslims. Majority of the Muslims are sitting on the sidelines. They're afraid because you understand they're not going to be allowed to go to the mosque. When we give them courage as Muslim mothers, Muslim families, and we say, we're still standing, they're going to come forward. Now we have a group of 7. We're growing many groups like that. And there are people that are inviting me to different Muslim countries to come. Morocco, because they're seeing like this behavior is atrocious. What is happening to America? We are not like that. We took a group of 50 Muslims to Auschwitz for the March of the Living. And there were 2 imams, one of them from New York, Imam Shahidullah, and he's got 2 schools. They are your allies, and he is standing with you. We have Naveed here. He's a Muslim. He's with the school board, and we're talking about we will not allow anyone. I'm an educator. We need Holocaust education. For 20 years, I taught, tolerance for Muslims in a post 9/11 classroom with my Jewish colleague. We use the Holocaust curriculum. And Muslims are going to the Holocaust museums and coming back and seeing, why didn't we learn this in school? And we are working on that as well. But yes, we need allies. We need you to spread the word, stand with us, and also, please, choose your allies well. We have to do intel research on people that say, oh, we want to work with you because of what's happening. So choose your neighbors, choose your allies really well, and ask them tough questions and ask them, do you believe like in Islam? People come and ask me, Anila, you should leave your religion. You're not violent, but your religion is violent. And I tell them, are you watching Al Jazeera? Because if you are, then yeah, you might have those ideas. But let me tell you, watch our social media channel and promote our message. Because this is the real message of Islam, and we're taking it back from these terrorists.
The next question thank you. The next question we have is about the silence around big figures in America. So this is a bit of a longer list, so rather than just read the whole thing, it's wives of politicians, major media stars. How do we feel about them justifying their silence, or do we understand in any way how they are in fact justifying that silence is the question.
First, I don't know how any woman can justify their silence. It's unfathomable to me. And secondly, it's connection. It's conversation. You cannot call every single governmental person's spouse out and say, you didn't stand up, you didn't speak out, or females that are in the government. That's not going to work. It's an educational process where we make appointments. We make appointments where we're meeting with senators and congressmen or congresswomen, and we're sitting down with their staff. And maybe they have voted not to agree with Israel whatsoever, what's going on. But the only way you can educate people is when you sit down at the table with them and you talk to them. You set up those appointments. Your congressional leadership wants to hear from you. They pay attention to you. So you need to listen. And we do the same thing when an actor is called out for something. If they're showing support, we show our support for them.
We have one more question here. Thank you.
Hang on, then we'll come in.
The question here, that's the card that we took, is what are our next steps together? Our organizations and the supporting organizations in the room tonight.
You want to start? You want me to start?
I want you to start.
Okay. Next steps. And the silence continues on. It continues on with what we're doing toward the United Nations, and it continues on through the hallways of Congress. And we have set up, like many organizations, an action alert system. Our action alert system, you can go in and say, I want to be informed about every single thing that has to do with women's issues. And you can be sent those items that have to do with women's issues. Your congressional leadership, like I said, they pay attention to you, they listen to you. And we have a group. I love the fact I get to lead Hadassah because we have an amazing group of volunteers, an amazing staff that all work hand in hand together that advocate and educate. And I have a team that I can call upon for the United Nations. I have a different team I can call upon for advocacy in Washington, D.C. I have a team I can call on to write op-eds for newspapers. And these are volunteers because they want to do this. And the question is, how do you want to make a difference on that next step? How do you want to join us and join our forces? Because we're going to continue to work together. When's the next thing at the United Nations? Well, we're both getting ready for September because it'll be here before we know it. So we're going to be working together again. But how do you each individually want to make that difference? You need to let us know, and we'll tell you how we can assist you in doing that.
I just want to share that, I was trying to get an appointment at the White House with the Muslim liaison. I'll just say one thing. And they weren't giving it to me because they knew what I would come and say. And he is pro-Hamas. He's gone, though. But Carol, with our alliance, we were able to do that. And when as Muslims and Jewish women, and we stood together, and I said what I wanted to say, and they shared their point of view, that was America. And we got to take it back. Even if our White House is sometimes compromised, and our FBI and our DHS, it's tough. Because a lot of times they don't want us to come because the Muslim leaders are as such, not all of them, but majority of them. And then we have to fight. I'd say, you don't want Muslim women? We don't count. We're not human beings. We counter that, and then we have to do this fighting. But if we can make this alliance and get these appointments, the government should work for all of us and give
That's their job.
appointments to all of us together or separately. But, now we were able to get rid of, just to tell you that, there's power in numbers and togetherness at this point is really important, that there were 2 Hamas supporters in the government that we were, voicing our concerns about. Both of them are gone. It took 6 months, but they're gone.
Isaac gets the floor.
I'm afraid we're out of time, but please continue
in
having this
charge.
conversation, and please, sir, this is not how we conduct conversations. Thank you. Please listen to each other. Please continue to spread the word. Do not stay silent. I want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing, and for all these fabulous people coming together. A big thank you to Lara Werwa, who helped put this event together, and everyone else who worked on it.